blown up babies, and then just leaves it hang there. And that's, unfortunately, we can't sue for that. And if we could, it would look like the national debt in terms of a legal action. And as far as the racial thing is concerned, that's garbage. Those folks in the extreme radical fringes of the Patriot movement, which is a cross-section of Americana, same as the police forces, 10% of every police force is either racially motivated, racist persons. They're doing drugs, doing prostitution, or stealing on the side. And it's probably the same in the militia movement because it's a cross-section of Americana. We stand down from any hate kind of rhetoric whatsoever, period. And my wife of 25 years was Jewish and Italian. My business partners for 4 or 5 different years were blacks, and my granddaughter is half American Indian. So if I'm racist, I am doing a lousy job of it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adams?
We certainly in no way would ever condone, as I said earlier, any type of violence, and of course that would include a bombing. I would ask each of you that as you watch the media report upon us, and you've probably seen many of our faces many times, listen for those words of racism from our mouth. You have not heard it. You will not hear it. And if we hear of anyone in our organization speaking of hate or speaking of racism, they will be asked to leave and never return because we do not condone it. The press will go out and find some fringe element out there that may say something, but trust me and believe me, it is not part of our mainstream organization. And as I said earlier, there are going to be some people that will try to ride our coattails because we are before the press. My gosh, we're before you today. And that's a lot of public knowledge. And they're going to try to grab some of that, and we will try to eliminate it wherever we can. But you pay very close attention to what the media has to say, and certainly as politicians, you've been soundbited. You know exactly what we're talking about. But you watch what we say out of our own mouth, and that's what's true.
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, first it's a question about blowing up a building.
Are there any circumstances under which an individual is justified to blow up any building?
After you've evacuated it and you wanted to cover up the evidence. Other than that, let me talk about the racist aspect now. It's getting old. I'm getting real tired of being called a Klan member. I'm getting tired of being called a member of the Ariana Nation Group. I spoke 2 weeks ago down at the Lincoln Memorial along with 2 other black people and the Jews for the Preservation of Firearms, and I believe there was somebody else Jewish who helped organize it, and the reports came out that a racist, anti-Semitic militia group held a rally on the Lincoln Memorial. Are these people blind, or is there an agenda afoot here? Okay? There are more black people showing up every day. A lot of the things that these people sit around in these meetings, these so-called right-wing wackos, and talk about, happen daily in black communities. And black communities know this. The first people concerned seriously about neighborhood house-to-house searches and seizures were over in Chicago. They were black. Good grief, almost half the people in Waco who got killed were black. This movement isn't about guns and skin color. It's about liberty. It's about freedom. Amen. The same kind of legislation we're seeing coming down on everybody now came down on blacks just after the Civil War. That's why they're getting involved in this thing. And it's going to come eventually to somebody, you know, as you keep ignoring us and saying, well, these guys are just a bunch of angry white men. Well,
pardon me for interrupting, but they have started the vote now, so we're going to have to conclude this in just a few minutes.
Okay.
If I could, Mr. Olson, would you respond to that?
The answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. Our record stands for itself. The FBI will give you all the evidence concerning the Michigan Militia Corps on that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, the vote has started, so we're going to have to conclude very shortly. There have been a lot of very serious charges made, and we would like a specification to the extent that you gentlemen would like to make them. I would ask you, Mr. Fletcher, when you talk about other explosions in the federal building and another John Doe, to give us the specifics. You've given us some materials. We will take a look at them. Mr. Olson, you have made a charge that what Senator Cole pointed up about a picture of Adolf Hitler, all in favor of gun control, raise your right hand, being Jewish copyrighted.
That is from the Jews for the Preservation of Firearm Gun Ownership out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that is a copyrighted document.
And what's your authority that it's Jewish?
A letter that came out in JPFO's newsletter about a month ago. And I'll be glad to give you a copy.
From whom?
From the director of JPFO.
Would you please submit a copy?
We will have it on your desk
it.
within the week, sir.
I'd be glad to get into the issue you raised about the single bullet theory. If you want to write to me, I will respond to you in detail. I'm sorry we don't have the time with the vote starting. Mr. Adams, you have made a comment about the organization of militias in all 50 states, and I would ask this of you and of all the other members present, if you would provide this committee in writing all the information you have about where the militias are, how many there are in each state, where their names are, what their membership is, what their purposes are, if there is anything in writing about them, if there is to give us some specification to the extent you can as to what weapons they have. And I'm not making any suggestion that there are any violations of law, but we'd like to know as much specifically as we can about this question. This hearing, I think, has been illuminating.
Perhaps you'll allow Ken Adams to give you a response to that question if he will provide you with that in-depth information.
I certainly would be appreciative if Mr. Ken Adams would do that. My own view, as I suggested in a brief exchange with Mr. Olson, is that let it all come out. Let it all hang out.
Could I respond to your question, sir? To your request to be brief.
If you can briefly, the votes have started.
You have asked for lists of people and lists of memberships and things of this information. I cannot provide that.
No, I haven't asked for a list of membership or lists of people. I'm not asking for that.
Okay.
I'm asking for total numbers. This committee would like to make an assessment.
I will do the best
as to what the strength of the militia's strengths are.
I will provide everything that I possibly can to you that would not violate personal privacy.
We're not asking you for any individual names that you don't want to provide. We're not asking you for violations of any personal privacy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Ms. Trockton, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, sir. I can add that we will provide you with the numbers of the people that we work with in leadership across the country, concerned citizens, and it will stagger your imagination, I guarantee you. America is upset, and we are a valve to help control them till we can find a way to solve this. Please be thankful that we are here. We love our country. We love our form of government. There is no better on earth. We're here to support the righteous government.
I would like an answer from each of you, too, in writing, if you'd provide it. As a follow-up to Mr. Johnson said, that there's only time between now and armed conflict. You have all said that you respect the democratic process and the ballot box as a way of changing our institutions. And the only limitations when asked about violence was essentially a statement about self-defense. To the extent that you know of any others who disagree and do plan violence, to the extent you would provide that to this committee, we would be interested to know that. This is the first hearing that we have on this subject, and we will be pursuing the matter further. You have something more you want to say, Mr. Trockman?
Sir, we are already doing that with federal agencies.
That's correct, yes. We have provided...
Well, all right. Provide them to federal agencies is fine. If you provide them to this subcommittee, we are interested to know, too, because we're trying to make an assessment of the extent of the militias, how many people, not necessarily specific identity, what their firepower is, what their purposes are, and whether they pose any threat, and whether there's any justification for further legislation on the subject, either at the state, local, or at the federal level. But this is the first hearing. This is the fourth hearing which this subcommittee has held on problems of terrorism generally.
Can I make one real brief statement? Given the very brief.
Make it real.
Okay. I can assure you, sir, and to all members of Congress and to all the people of this nation, that the militia does not constitute any threat to this nation.